Greetings comic book fans, and welcome back to the Dude Cave, and welcome to Dude's Comic Haul. This is my weekly video where I share with you the brand new books I've picked up today on officially the best day of the week, New Comic Book Day. Now, it was a slight panic. I thought for a minute for a few minutes I wasn't going to be able to get my comics. Finished training, 4 o'clock, got to the bus stop 5 minutes past 4. Takes me about half an hour to get to the city centre on Buzz. Bus is a regular. I thought I've got well enough time. Comic shop isn't going to shut till 5:30. It's just after 4. I've got plenty of time. I'm going to get my comics. Buzz didn't turn up for like 30 minutes, and so we get on the bus, and of course then you're in like, you've got kids getting home from school, you've got people beginning to finish work. The roads are chocker, and it takes a bit longer to get through. So I got to the city centre at 5:15, and I just I didn't run. I don't like running because I just think I hear of more people having heart attacks that run than people. Oh, this guy was walking and he had a heart attack. You don't usually hear that in news, but you hear like runners and stuff. So I'm always kind of trying not to run. So I kind of fast walked and managed to get to the comic shop. 20 past, I got there, so like that was cool, and I managed to get my comics. So here we are, my comics this week. We got 13 books this week. I thought it was going to be 12, but then they had a book in from a few weeks ago, so that made it up to 13, which is the great thing about having my order now, because I would have completely forgot to look for that book today. Because sometimes that happens when the comics get delivered. They might not get a book, and then they might have to wait a few weeks to have it in. So, with having the order now, that's just taken care of, and they're really good with my order at my shop. I'm really lucky there to have a good shop. So anyway, let's get into these books. Enough of me rambling on. You want to see the comics I got. First up, this is the book from a few weeks ago, Where Monsters Dwell, issue number 4. Really been enjoying this series. I'm becoming a big fan of Garth Ennis as a writer. I like his stuff. I really liked his Fury Max. That was really good. And this is the kind of thing I'm loving. The characters in it, they're a bit strange though, because like the main character, the Phantom Eagle, who's like Carl, he's kind of not your typical. Maybe he is a typical hero from another era, but like he's very sexist. He's not very likable at all. A bit of a coward, a bit of a jerk. But like last issue, they kind of twisted it, where the woman who had been the more relatable character, more likable character, she kind of had switched. Now she's with these Amazons, and she's like a lesbian, so she's like in her element. That she's got all these really gorgeous women, and he's like, these women, they don't like men because men have kind of tried to abuse them in the past. So they're not very trusting of men, and treat men in a very bad way, to kind of not get the treatment that they've had in the past. So it's kind of like things weren't looking good for Carl, but kind of even though he acted like a jerk, you kind of started to feel a bit of sympathy, because anytime as a bloke you see another bloke's about to get his wicket cut off, you're kind of like, you gotta feel sympathy for the dude, even if he's a bit of a jerk. But yeah, enjoying this, and I'm really looking forward to see where we're going to go with that. We then have, from the books this week, Harrow County, issue number 5. Really enjoying this series. I'm loving the art. I think the art's really gorgeous. Tyler Crook does the art. Really liking that art. I'm just going to check it's the same art. Yeah, it is. So I'm really liking the art. The story's been really good and interesting. We had this twist that our main character, there's this lookalike girl. So who's she? Is it another version of the witch? Who is this? How are they linked? So like, kind of like last issue, we got answers, but you get more questions. I'm really enjoying this. I've been on a really good ride, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next. We then have Superman Action Comics, issue number 44. This has been really good. Last issue, this book, each Superman book's been dealing with a different aspect of him being outed at the world now known that Superman is Clark Kent. And Action Comics has been dealing with his local neighborhood and Metropolis in general. And kind of last issue, it kind of revealed that the people higher up in Metropolis have been taken over by some kind of shadowy creatures. So like, Superman's on the case. Can he defeat them? Because he hasn't got his full powers. So can he defeat them? Can he save Metropolis? Really been enjoying this. Greg Pak, I just love how he's writing Superman. Kuda's art has been really great, and I'm looking forward to see where this story is going to go next, because things were looking pretty grim last issue. We then have Batman issue 44. This issue sees Greg Capullo getting a well-deserved break, as we have Jock on art in an issue that's co-written by Brian Azzarello along with Snyder. I like that cover. I like that cover a lot. This is apparently, we go back to like Bruce Wayne Batman and kind of get kind of a bit more information on this character. Is it Mr. Bloom or Dr. Bloom? I can't remember which, but this new villain that we've been introduced to, we get a bit more about him. We're going back to the original Batman, really. So it's nice in a way to have Bruce Wayne back as Batman. That's a nice thing. It's also kind of nice learning a bit more about Bloom. So I'm liking how they're doing this, and you know, to have one issue in there kind of bringing him back, that's good. And I don't mind, though I love Greg Capullo's art. The dude, he just every month he's so consistent, he deserves a break. So you know, and Jack's good, and he'll give it a different mood and a different feel, which works. Now this cover, Batman Superman 24, I believe this is the variant, but I'm bloody glad they put it in because it is really nice. I really like that. 75th birthday of Green Lantern, and yeah, that is really good. Really like that. This again is written by Greg Pak, so like the two Superman books written by Greg Pak come out this week. Again, I like how he writes Superman. We've got these subterranean people that Superman encountered back in Action Comics. They're now coming back for revenge as a consequence of Superman's actions. So Superman's trying to find a peaceful reason. Meanwhile, Bat Gordon is kind of trying to find out a bit more about Clark, and whether Superman's somebody that he can trust and can work with. So I'm liking where this is going, and it's been good so far. And again, I really like how Greg Pak writes Superman. We then, from Image, only one Image book this week. It is Injection. This is one of those Image books that I kind of regret buying as a monthly. I've enjoyed it. It's difficult at times to follow, and I think it probably will be better as a whole. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to read it every month, but when we get to issue 6, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to read all of them. Because I read like the first issues back to back, and I think I got more from them reading those first 3 issues that way than I got from issue 4. Because the story's making more sense as we go on and we get more answers. But it's a bit of a conundrum, this book, and I will read better as a trade. But I am enjoying it, as I wouldn't still be picking it up. But it's one of those books that I regret jumping on. It's one of those Image books I wish I'd have put on my list to get as a trade, because I think it would work better as that. But still looking forward to kind of seeing what happens next as we kind of find out more about what's going on. We then have Miss Marvel, which I totally forgot this book was coming out. It issue number 18, The Last Days of Miss Marvel. I think this might be the last issue. I'm trying to see. I know I shouldn't go to the end. Yeah. Oh no, I think there's one more issue. There's one more issue left. So yeah, I really loved this book. I'm glad I jumped on it. A bit sad I waited so long. I know one of the first things I'm going to do when I get a job is I'm going to try and hunt down issue 2, because I think that's the only issue I haven't got. I saw it on eBay, but it was like $12.99, which at the moment, you know, being unemployed, you can't really justify paying $12.99 for one comic. When you've got money coming in, you can kind of justify it a bit more as a one-off kind of deal. I don't usually like paying that much, particularly for a modern comic. But it's one I want to get the complete collection. So, and it's also one of like the few comics my wife actually reads, because like with my wife being Indian, she really relates to the Asian characters. So I kind of want to encourage that as well. If my wife wants to read a book as well, then you know, and she can read it on my tablet because I have Marvel Unlimited, but I think she prefers actually reading the comic. So yeah, I want to get issue 2, but this has been brilliant. Like I said, I wish I jumped on it sooner, because it has been a really, really good book. Loving Wilson's writing, and I just love everything about the book. It to me, it has that kind of old school kind of feel to it. There's a fun kind of feel. There's like, she's dealing with life as well as dealing with being a superhero, which I think is one of the things that always kind of differentiated Marvel from DC for me as a kid. That Marvel seemed much more grounded in the real world, where DC, it was kind of these people these mystical people, where you didn't get that so much with Marvel. You know, the thing you always use is like Spider-Man would have to try and find the money for medicine for Aunt May, while at the same time trying to stop the lizard, you know, breaking all the reptiles out of the local zoo. So kind of you have that kind of thing. And to me, the thing I always say about this book is it reminds me a lot of Buffy the Vampire Slayer in that kind of way. And I think Joss Whedon took a lot from Marvel in making Buffy, because you've got that whole thing of where she's got that. Sorry, I had something pop up on my screen. How rude! Interrupted me, so I had to click it as I couldn't see. Anywho, getting back, I think, you know, the way Buffy would always be like living life, kind of go through the same things you go through in high school, but then at the same time dealing with being a vampire slayer by night and dealing with all this mystical crazy stuff. And I think this is where, like, this is what this book is. So I think if you loved Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and you're not usually into superhero books, maybe this is definitely one to try out, because it definitely has that same kind of vibe. And I really love the thing that's going on with Bruno and with Miss Marvel as well. So yeah, a lot of great stuff, and I'm looking forward to that. And the thing as well that's really cool is it's not the last issue. So yeah, that's cool. We got one more to go before it gets relaunched. Of course, it's coming back. It's one of the ones that they've already announced. We then have A-Force, issue number 4, which I'm really enjoying this. Always been a big fan of She-Hulk. When I first started reading comics, it was at the time when she was a part of the Fantastic Four, because the Thing had stayed behind her battle world, and when he came back, he didn't want to be in the Fantastic Four straight away, and there was this whole story with the Thing kind of been off doing his own thing, and She-Hulk still being a member of the Fantastic Four. And I always really liked She-Hulk as a character. And you know, the Charles Soule series, and also the previous to that, I think it was Dan Slott who done it, the previous series. There's been some really good series with the She-Hulk, and I've always really liked her as a character. So the fact that she plays such a big role in this, and then that it's written by Wilson and Bennett, you know, Wilson, who's doing such a great job on Miss Marvel, just makes me want to pick this up more, and I'm really intrigued to see what's happening here. And also because, like we did see last week in Old Man Logan, we saw a She-Hulk that was like behind the shield. So I'm kind of like wondering, is that our She-Hulk from A-Force? Because they didn't specify. Sticking with Secret Wars, we have Planet Hulk, issue number 5. Last issue, I just felt I'd been enjoying this series, but last issue was that issue that kind of really brought the series to life, and we got some really nice reveals and some teasers of what might be going on. And last issue for me was the best one so far, and I'm super psyched to see what happens next. And I'm just wondering, is that cover, is that a clue to what happens next? We then have Darth Vader, which again, another really nice cover that I really love, with him standing there looking at his reflection. I really loved what Kieran Gillen's done here. This is issue number 9 of Darth Vader. The way that was, like, when you watch the Star Wars films, in A New Hope, he is basically a lackey. You know, you've got the Emperor, you've got Tarkin, you've got the generals, and you've got Vader's kind of on the same level as kind of all the other Moffs. Tarkin is above him. So like, Vader isn't top of the tree. He takes orders from people. He's just a link in the chain. When we come to Empire Strikes Back, Vader is very much the second in command. You get no impression at all that apart from the Emperor, there is anybody whose authority is higher than Vader. So what happened between the two films? Because surely Vader, being the survivor of the Death Star, would take the blame, as we saw at the beginning of this series. So how does he go from taking the blame to being like very much the second in command? So I really like the journey and the change in attitude from Vader and the explanation for that. And I really love that part of what Kieran Gillen's doing here, and I think it's been done really well, and I've really been enjoying it. I'm kind of a bit with the kind of the Vader's kind of put his own version. Like in the original films, you had Luke, you had Leia, you had Han, you had Chewbacca. You had the droids R2-D2 and C-3PO. That was like the gang, the good guys, and Vader's kind of put his own gang together with like evil versions of those people. So I'm kind of a bit, I don't know how much, you know, but it has been a lot of fun this series, seeing Vader kind of scheme and to see the change and and to have the reasonings as well for why this is happening, I think has been really first class, and it's one of the best books, not just Star Wars books, because I really enjoy it. Now this is the book that I'm most looking forward to this week. Star Wars Scattered Empire, issue number 1 of a 4-part mini-series. This book is kind of, there's a whole host of media coming out to kind of fill the gap from Empire Strikes Back to Force Awakens, and this is the first comic that's kind of in there trying to fill that gap. So I'm super psyched for this, and this would definitely, once I've recorded this video and it's uploading, Jack, I'm sitting down with a nice cool beverage and I'm reading this book because I'm super psyched for that book. We then have Doctor Who issue number 11. This is the 12th Doctor Adventures. Again, another cover that I really love. What is it this week? We just seem to have saved all the awesome covers for 1 week. I really do love that cover. The way the guy, this, I can't remember if this is the conclusion to the current story or if we've got a new story, because usually the Doctor Who books go to 15 issues. I think, yeah, this is a new story we're kicking off with here, so it may be the final issue of the first year of the 12th Doctor adventures, so that should be good. It'd be interesting to see what new adventure we got with the Doctor there. And finally, we made it to the end. We have Ninjak issue number 7. Hooray. This has been really good the last couple of issues, and this is one of the things that I love about Valiant. Sometimes they are slow starters. It can take you a couple of issues to get into a book, but then it just gets better, and the deeper you get into a series with Valiant, often the better it gets, and that's kind of totally what's been happening with Ninjak. You know, the first few issues, you kind of come into Ninjak expecting it to be all action and stuff, and like the first few issues wasn't really that much action, but now everything, particularly last issue, things are starting to pay off, things are starting to connect up, and it just really is kicking into high gear. So I'm really enjoying this book and super psyched to see what happens next. So those are my books for this week. Thank you for watching my video, greatly appreciate it. I will be back some point over the weekend, most probably, with a review video. That's the aim anyway, to have a review video up by about Sunday. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I've got to say. Thank you for watching. All that leaves me to say is I've been Jason. This has been Dude's Comic Haul from the Dude Cave. Bye for now.